I've lived on a boat for 7 years now. It has literally changed the person that I am, and here's how. Hi, I'm Rosie Blythe. I'm the author of the Princess Guide to Life book series, and on this channel we talk about everything from finances to spirituality to boats to dogs, and today's boat one. So I think the most fundamental change is that I have turned from a night owl into a morning lark, which is really weird. I didn't even know it was possible. So if you're a night owl, then you like to wake up late, go to bed late, you're more productive later in the day. Morning larks, obviously the opposite. You want to wake up early, you get more of your stuff done, then you're really sleepy by 8 p.m. Done for the day, you're not going out anywhere. So I actually come from a family of night owls, like all of us. And I used to try and stick to going to bed at 11, 12, because that's sort of what you need to do in order to, do your 9 to 5 job and get up early. But if I was completely left to my own devices, my natural going to sleep time was around 2 a.m. My old schedule used to be I would faff about most of the day. I'd probably start my, working from home, I'd probably start my working day around 3 or 4 o'clock. But then I would work until midnight. 10 o'clock, I'd be oh, got a good few hours left in me now. 10 o'clock was great because it would be everything's quiet, no one's going to call you, and you can get a few more hours of work done. So that was my schedule. So I was fully paid up member of the Night Owl Club. And living on a boat has changed me, and I don't quite know why. I think it started because you do just hear more stuff. In a house, you probably got double glazing, you might be far away from the road. I think on a boat, it's so much more immediate. So 6 a.m. on a canal, you've got joggers going past, you've got cyclists going past on their way to work or whatever. You've got people just making noise because they're using the canal path as a shortcut and they're chatting to their colleagues or whatever on the way to the train station. And you've also got, ducks quacking at 5 a.m. having little quacky altercations outside your boat. And I just ended up waking up earlier and also I think because my curtains are quite thin. Maybe if I had blackout blinds it would be different, but so the light would be coming through quite early, and so I ended up just waking up earlier and earlier and earlier. So it would kind of go from my natural waking up time of 8:30, it would be 7:30, 7, 6:30, 6. This was before I had a dog. Now that I have a dog, I'm very much dictated to by his schedule. So in the summer, he was waking up at 20 to 6 every day, and I just got used to it. I was all right then, let's start the day. And so because I was waking up so early, I was knackered by about 9 p.m. I was I've got to go to sleep now. I can't stay up any longer. I just get to the point where I'm my battery is flat. I need to lie down in my recharging dock. And that was it. And it's just over time, I've just completely switched. And there are advantages. I like being up before everybody else. It's always really disorientating and horrible to get woken up by a work phone call, isn't it? So I like the fact that now I'm up before anyone else. So whatever happens in the day, I'm already up and awake and prepared. And also people don't tend to ring you so much at night. Maybe they do when you're in your teens and 20s. But sometimes when I check my phone in the morning, I'm oh, he was texting me in the middle of the night. And then you're oh no, they texted at 9:30. My phone goes on sleep mode at about 9:30. So I'm good for the night. So the second way that I have fundamentally changed is that I'm not really scared of spiders and things anymore. So when I was living in a house, if I saw a spider in the corner on the ceiling, I would have to deal with it. I couldn't relax while it was still there. I'd be oh, I need to catch it. So I'd get a glass and a piece of card and do the sliding thing. And the thing is, when you live in a boat, it's more like living in a garden shed, I guess, than a house. And I don't know if that's because it's more outdoorsy, or if it's just you have the same number of creepy crawlies but you just see them more because it's a smaller space. I don't know if it's disproportionate, don't know. But anyway, in a boat there are so many more creepy crawlies and spiders and things that you just can't keep up that same level of vigilance, because you'd be in and out all evening with your cup and your piece of card. So now if I see a spider, I'm oh, he can stay there, it's fine. It's just laziness. I just find that the number of spiders is just too many to keep up with, so I just don't. And I think You know, obviously if you're terrified of spiders, maybe don't live in a boat. But if you just have like a kind of medium level, you know, regular kind of like, I don't really like them very much, live in a boat, and after 6 months or so, you'll just be completely ambivalent about them. You'll just be like, ugh, whatever, they're okay. And you share your home with whatever little creatures can get in. You just kind of go, oh yeah, there's a slug on my kitchen counter. I'll need to remove it, obviously, but you're not as horror stricken as you might be by seeing the same thing in a house, if you see what I mean. I think as well, when you deal with your own poo, it starts out like really disgusting, like, oh my goodness, I can't believe I have to deal with poo. And then in the end, you're just like, it's just poo. Like maybe people who have babies where you have to change the nappies, maybe you have the same thing. I don't know. I think I have had it actually with the dog. Now I'm just like, I don't find dog poo as disgusting as I once did. Like it's still gross, obviously. I'm not crazy, but I'm not like, ah. I'm just like, okay, yeah, let's clear it up. So I think probably the nicest change is that I feel very much more in touch with the seasons, and it feels like you're almost like going back to a more ancient way of life. And I guess you might feel this as well if you work outside. Like obviously if you live in a house and you don't really venture out very much, obviously you're aware of the seasons. But you don't have that like intimate relationship with the seasons that you do if you spend a lot of time outside, or if you kind of live primarily outside. So like winter, it feels so long, and when the days start getting a bit longer, when you see the sun coming back, you completely understand why people used to worship the sun. Like you get it. You're like, yeah, I can relate. Like the sun has come back, thank you. It's like that. And I just think that you're so much more in touch with the seasons, and I think also living on a boat, you're kind of, it's a little, I always sort of joke that it's like living 200 years ago, because you know, any heat that you generate, you have to generate it yourself. You can't just like, well actually in some boats you can just turn the switch, make the central heating come on, but like in my boat, if I want it to be warm, I have to either, you know, create the heat via the stove or wrap up really warm with blankets and stuff. There isn't another way to do it. Kind of just makes you feel connected with people from the past who would have had to do the same. And you know, like water, there's a saying, what is it, something about when you have to carry your own water, you value every drop. And obviously I don't have to well, sometimes I'll carry my water, but I have to fill up my water tank. So I have to like plan my stop, plan how far I can go before I'm going to need to stop at a tap, hope the tap is in full working order. And then you fill your tank and then sort of cruise away with a nice full tank. And it's amazing what a difference that makes to your mood. Like when you when your toilet is empty, your water tank's full, your coal and wood stores are full, that's just a whole other level of happiness. You appreciate such simple pleasures, and it does feel a little bit like going back to those old days where all of these things would have been really big deals. You know, there have been times when my batteries have been really low, so it's like, oh, I can't really, I'm not going to watch TV, I'm going to ration the use of my phone. So you just like end up reading by lamplight, and you're like, okay, I'm relating to my great grandparents right now. I think I've become a lot more confident in my abilities. I'm not the most practical person. Like creativity, yes. Practical building stuff, engineering, not so much. But I have got better at stuff like that, like with a lot of supervision. I've done a little bit of the engineering stuff, but that's definitely not my forte. It's like emergency only. But I think it does kind of increase your confidence, because you're like, yeah, actually, it's not that hard. I can do it. I think I've also got more confident because like I've painted and decorated the whole boat, like internally, externally. I've had to patch up holes in the roof, sealing up the gunnels to make sure there's nothing leaking and stuff like that. It all just kind of boosts your confidence because it's you taking care of your own home. With a boat, you end up doing slightly more adventurous things, whether you want to or not. Like I remember one time, my boat, it was in a really short pound. So the area between two locks is called a pound. And it was this incredibly short one. And I was quite new to boating, so I didn't realise that short pounds will quite often end up really, really shallow. Because if water is flowing out faster than it's coming in, they end up getting to a really low level. So, and I could see it was low, but I was like, oh, that's all right. I'm just going to go straight through. I'll be right in the middle, so I'll be okay. And I was not okay. My boat got grounded. So I was in the middle of the canal, and I was just like, okay, what do I do? And I think I called the Canal River Trust and I was like, what should I do? I'm stuck. And they were like, oh, just wait, because someone will be coming down the lock, you know, at some point. So when they do, the water will come through and you'll rise up. And so I think I must have waited like 20 minutes. I was like, I don't really like just waiting and not doing anything. So I ended up actually clambering out. So I put some shorts on, and this was November, but it was pretty mild. So it was okay for some reason. So I put on like my little summer, like, I don't know, rubbery jelly shoes or whatever, and some shorts. So I wasn't getting completely like my trousers soaked. And I got into the water and it was like up to, I think it was just like up to the level of my shorts. So that's how shallow it was. And I waded to the side and I like clambered out like on the mud, and I felt like Bruce Willis. It also felt a little bit like George from The Famous Five. As you may know, if you've seen my previous videos, I do tend to relate everything to Enid Blyton books, but it felt really good to be like channeling that like adventurous person. So anyway, yeah, I clambered up out the side and I went up to the lock and I opened it so that more water would come through, and then I had to quickly run back to my boat so I could get to my boat before the water got too high. So yeah, kind of a crazy day, and could have been avoided if I'd been a bit more experienced to start with. I wouldn't have got into that situation, but it's like you do things like that and it just builds up your confidence, because you're like, well, there was a bit of a crisis, but I solved it by channeling my inner Bruce Willis or George. I'm really good now at reading the energy of places. I think I got really good at reading the energy of people when I was working. I was working in, well, I say TV and film, it was mostly commercials, so it tended to be shoots of like 1 or 2 days. Sometimes you'd meet the same people over and over again because it's quite a small industry in London, but quite often I would walk onto the set and I wouldn't know anyone. And so I got really quick at judging who was who. Like you'd know who the boss was because of the way that other people would relate to them. So I used to play a little game with myself, like, okay, spot the director. If I don't know anyone's name, spot the director, spot the producer, spot the client. People almost fall into types. So like you'd meet someone and they'd really remind you of someone that you met on the last crew. And you'd be like, oh, I think I know what you're going to be like. Obviously there's like self-fulfilling prophecies and biases and stuff. But generally, I would be right. And so I think by meeting lots and lots of people, I got really good at reading people. So I think by moving to lots of different places on the boat, I've got really good now at reading the energy of places. And it's weird because sometimes I don't even realise until I've left a place that it felt oppressive in some way. Like I remember recently I was moored and I was just near these flats. And I quite liked it because I was like, oh, it's quite nice to sort of know that there are other people there. So even if there's no other boats around, I've got like a bit of human contact. And it wasn't until I moved on and I was just had a hedge next to me that I realised how oppressive it had felt, having all of these windows like looking out down on me. I was like, I don't know if people are looking at me anytime. And it's so strange because the atmosphere can change. Like you'll just literally turn a corner on the canal and it's a different vibe. It's so strange. But anyway, I think if you're interested in that kind of spirituality and reading energy, it's a really good kind of tip. Just like go to lots and lots of different places and you will get really good at reading the energy really quickly and getting the vibe of a place, because it does help. So thank you for hanging out with me today as I chat about the 5 ways living on a boat has changed me. And thank you for liking the video. Thank you for subscribing to the channel, and I will look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.